let's take a quick tour to the log yard. They got poplar here. Some big red oak. Maple, hickory, poplar over there. Short poplar over here. White oak. Not much of white oak. Red oak. Red oak ties. That's your red oak tie logs. And then in the back, we got quite a bit stacked in the back here. There's your sycamore. Now we've marked the ends of the sycamore. If you look, there's a bunch of them shaky. See that pink dots? Them will be cut into dunnage. You'll get some lumber off the outside, and when they get to the center where the shake starts, we turn them to dunnage. So we don't try to sell it on the market. And there's a bunch of low grade logs. There's ash. There's tie logs, pine, cherry, and some walnut in the back. Let me take you all back here. What is this stack here? Oh, that's some long ash you've got stacked there. There's some left spillover cherry. Cherry's getting full in the back. Some big red oak thick stock. Got a lot of poplar and red oak thick stock, and I'm afraid I'm gonna get stuck with it. With this tariff thing and stuff, I'm scared I'm gonna get stuck with it. Beautiful red oak. That's all face red oak, and it's all face butts. And the face red oak short, that's all thick stock logs. And then there's a bunch of thick stock poplar logs. There's a bunch of thick stock poplar logs. And we think we got about 3 weeks of production here stacked up. So if we didn't get another log, we'd be able to solve almost the whole month of April and still be all right. And it's borderline, I'm starting to get a little nervous. It's borderline, I'm gonna have too much inventory going into the summer. See, in the summer when the sap comes up and the trees start growing, logs get, they can spoil. They can get stain, sap stain and stuff like that, and that ruins the lumber in your higher grade. And the higher grade is what you're paying for at a sawmill like ours. And we got a bunch of ties. Ties are they're tightening tie specs. So we make a lot of ties here now. They're tightening up the specs on these ties. So I'm trying to make better ties. Them's ties that hasn't been cut off yet. There's about probably 2 semi-loads there to be stacking. There's 2 semi-loads worth, 3 semi-loads worth stacked back here. Here's our pallet stock. We got plenty of pallet stock to go. We ran the pallet room quite a bit last week. We don't run our pallet room full time. But here's all the tie loads we got started. A bunch of them. We probably got 4 or 5 loads started. So we're starting to back up on ties a little bit. And they're tightening the specs on us because, well, the railroad don't need them right now. We're trying to sell something they don't want. But grade prices are coming back some. Don't know what the tariff thing's gonna do, and that makes me nervous, but they have been coming back in the past. So we're hoping that the grade will come back enough to where we can start sawing more grade and less ties, but so far, And then there's some cants. So we got us a good thing of going. We're making quite a bit of product. And then that's just stuff that didn't get shipped last week. I mean, there's plenty of going. Now I did some modifying to our debarker again. I just keep working on the debarker trying to get it better. But you can tell how we're, once in a while, we're getting perfection. And this is perfection. This is all bark gone and no wood. But we still got a little bark and we still got digging into wood in places. So we're still working on our debark trying to get it better. I'm using pressure. It's a long story. If you study a debarker, there's a lot to it. It's not a simple machine. It looks simple, but it's You got to fine tune it. And through modifications on the head, look how close these logs are getting to perfection, where you're getting all the bark off but not the wood. But I still got places I'm nicking, but they're not very deep nicks. The reason all this is important, and there's one I got hard on. I did a modification to the head and tried that test log and really chewed up on him. But we're getting close. Look at the dark spots we're getting where you just see the, you know, the cambium layer of the log. That's just, I mean, we're getting right there, so close. But to fine tune our head, now there's many different kind of debark heads out there, and most of them uses the science behind, there's always steel contact with the log. So the head, the teeth are offset around the head, so there's always contact with the log. Our debark ain't like that. We got this, I think they call it a bark king head or whatever. And the idea is, with the head, when it come out, is you got these shoes that holds the head off the log. Anything in between the shoes, you just eat the crap out of. You can eat a hole in the log if you take it. On low grade, knotty logs, when you're trying to take knots off, that works fine. But 90% of logs you paid money for and you want good lumber, that's not worth a crap. So I modified this head and put these paddles around here, which is based off of what Beaumont does, Beaumont lumber, and to try to get this thing to where, see, every other row, it's 9 rows of teeth across this, around this head. And I put a paddle on every other row. That's one that's digging in. I need to chew that off. That's bad right there. But anyways, took stainless and put down, welded hard surface on it, because I couldn't get my hard surface steel quick enough. And then in between them rows, we got the regular flat teeth. And then I took a grinder and made them rounded. But it needs to be, it's not rounded enough for this application. It needs to be rounded like the diameter of a 5/8 inch bar. Like a diameter of a 5/8 inch bar. That's what the diameter is I need on that. Now I've added springs. I got a spring from a minivan, from a Dodge minivan right there for the all the way down. And these springs are my regular extension springs I got on there. 2 400 pounders and a 200 pounder to get this head to where it won't sit heavy on the log. So the idea is you'll take all the bark off and none of the wood. That's the idea. Now look how light we got this head now. See that? You can pick up on it. I'm putting out a little bit of effort to pick up on it, but not a lot. And that head, I don't know what all that weighs with all that steel on there. But to balance that out and to make that work right, some people said do it with cylinders and stuff like that and air valves and stuff like that, but I like the springs. I can walk past and see the springs. I can manage the springs. If something's broke and we're chewing up the log, I know, put another spring on, you know, that type of stuff. We're also opening with a computer that scans the log and tries to keep your opening face as small to the outside of the log as possible. You need a log that ain't chewed up and butchered up to do that right. So it starts right here. The bigger the piece, the bigger the difference is you can make. And as the piece keeps getting smaller, every time you touch the piece, you make less of a difference. So if you start at the stump standing in the woods. You start there, doing your stuff right. You come in there in the log yard, do your stuff right. Debark, do that right. Head saw, do that right. Resaw, do that right. Get all the way down to your grader, edged and grade and all that stuff. Do all that stuff right. The reason all that stuff matters, you buy timber standing on the stump from the landowner that has managed his woods and took care of his woods, his or hers, sorry, didn't mean to be sexist there, but his or her woods, and they sell their timber, you're trying to get them as much money as possible for their timber. So through the system of buying the timber, logging it, buying the logs, sawmilling the logs, selling the lumber people selling it to furniture manufacturers, making it into furniture, flooring, trim, what have you, through all that process to get that money back to the landowner and back on the land, that's our task. And then my responsibility now that I ain't cutting timber every day like I used to, before it was to take care of the woods. Well, now my goal, my job is to make sure that we get the log we buy from the logger. We buy the wood. I take a Doyle rule and we buy the wood of the log. Then we grade that wood from the log yard and pay the logger accordingly. I have to make sure in here that I'm doing all the work I can to get the maximum amount of recovery and yield and grade out of that log as possible. There's so many ways to do it in a sawmill. And my goal is an overall, through 150,000 feet a week, plus or minus, is to make damn sure that I'm getting the best value out of them logs I can. Because I pass that money on the logger passes that money on to the landowner, and the landowner says, timber's worth taking care of. Let's take care of our land, let's take care of our timber, because it does pay. You see what I mean? I don't know, through the dynamics of cyclical stuff, through the trade stuff that Trump and them's doing now, which I'm not touching on, through all that stuff that's going on, it's my job to do my job as best as I can, and to help the people here do their job the best that they can, so it's done for the whole system. So, and my job right now is to help everybody do these jobs here. We did a project on this deck. We have a heck of a time with this deck. Pressures are set wrong. We set the hydraulic pressures where it quits tearing up parts here. You know, just electrical. Yeah, yesterday, me and Perry worked on a series circuit that's used to, we got 3 start and stop buttons for our rolls out here. So you got multiple operators running your roll case. We end up in a three-phase circuit. You end up with the control power coming from a set of switches at that operator, this operator, and the head saw operator. So we had to diagnose that and figure out that circuit. There was a wire loose, and it was screwing up everything through the stop circuits on the control power. But just doing stuff like that, and then helping Zach and Rick and Ball with the bands when they need my help. I just float around buying logs. Me and Perry does the tie merchandising, and Big Mama helps. Big Mama's our loader man woman. That's what I tell her. But me and Perry does the ties. Me and Eli and Mommy, we buy the logs and merchandise the log yard, and Perry does help there too, and Matt Smith. Thank you, Matt. But then in the mill here, we got a whole team of people that does their task, and it's my job to help them do their task. And it don't make good YouTube, I get it. So that's why my YouTube channel slipped, because I'm not doing a task anymore with a right or wrong, rock solid answer like it used to be, the blue way. You know, I don't do it the blue way anymore. Now we're here, it's a wicked environment. There's a lot of inputs, and you wouldn't believe how complex it is to get a saw straight and do its job right, with all the fence and carriage and leading the saw and everything set just right and perfect, and then get a saw blade with a perfect levelness and a perfect tension and the perfect sharpened teeth to be able to run good for the time it runs. We run swedge and shape bands, we don't run stellite. But all them things, all them factors leading into things. And then keeping up on the maintenance. Always got in the back of my head on my list, always got a job list going on this notepad here. So when somebody gets caught up or something like that, well, I don't think that these bearings have been greased down there. We need to grease them bearings. We need to check this. We need to adjust that chain. We need to modify. Yesterday or Friday, me and Perry pulled a screen out of the hog down there. We was making some pin chips. Big Daddy was in here loading mulch the other day, and Big Daddy was studying what was coming out of this screw auger up there, or stacking auger up back there. You set stacking auger. Big Daddy said there's pin chips in there. I said, well, we're sawing hickory. There's going to be a few pin chips in hickory because hickory's got interlocking grain, tight hard fibers and stuff like that, and it tends to make pin chips. And Big Daddy's like, I think it's worse than hickory. Well, we got a maple and it's still making pin chips. So I pulled the screen up out of the hog, me and Perry did, and I put chip breakers on it, which those of you knows much about a hog knows what chip breakers are on a baffled screen. And we're going to try it with chip breakers Monday, see how that does. But there's all kinds of blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah. It's just a lot. And that's what, Jason, I'm sorry, buddy, I'm gonna pick on you, but you get workers from time to time that blow their stack because it's so hard physically and so wicked mentally at the same time that sometimes you just, your monkey brain overtakes your intellectual brain and you blow your stack, you know. So we're constantly struggling with that stuff, along with, so the people struggling, the equipment's are struggling, your precise measurements are struggling, you know, all these things are struggling. And then you go to other places, other mills, and watch how they do it. Now, you don't figure these problems out. These seem like simple problems, but you don't figure these problems out without going to other places and studying what they're doing. And then you bring it back home and you incorporate it and you try that out. And then everybody can say, well, get a new mill. Or people that understand the way economics works say, well, get a new mill, buy this, buy that. Well, you need a tiger cat. You know, them kind of mentality people, they don't get the fact that you have to create profit. And if you got a rig that's already put in here, that's been bought and installed, make profit with the rig you already have. If this rig right here is already paid for, and you can't make profit with this one, why the hell are you looking to get another one? It don't sound to me like you learned how to use that one. You see what I mean? So people that gets lost in that are usually people that don't create cash. You have to create a margin, create the cash for the whole supply chain from a chair manufacturer all the way down through the landowner. You have to create a chain that works, you know, and this, so the task here in this wicked environment is to make damn sure the chain and the throughput through this chain is profitable for everybody. So it's sustainable. We have to do it for the forest, you know, for environment. Everybody's talking about going green and stuff. Healthy forest is green, dude. You can't not be in a forest and have a healthy forest. You can't just leave it alone and let Mother Nature have it. Because I'm going to tell you right now, Mother Nature's ways of managing are fire. And none of us wants our house burnt down. So here's what I've been working on. Mark's coming up to do a red oak study with me. And I got my 16 through 19 inch diameter class red oak. In the back I got a big 20. I got 20 and over in the back. And then I got my 13 to 15 diameter class here. And my 10 footers and 12 footers. I like the 10 footers, but if it's a 10-foot tie log area, it's kind of my Achilles heel. And then my 12-foot logs in lower grade red oaks, kind of my Achilles heel. So basically they're logs that if I was a logger and I was on a boom, I'd probably cut it a tie log with the markets the way they are right now. And then I got my 5 big juicies. It's just good, and that looks a little rough on the butt, but it cleans up okay. But either way, it's a solid number 1. A solid number 1's right here. Red oaks that I'm gonna do. And my primes are in the back. I ain't even fooling with the primes. Don't know what the market's gonna do. Could swing either way. I'm not even gonna touch that right now. I told Mark. Mark said, what logs do you have trouble with? I said, these ones. These ones right here. Red oak scares the shit out of me. So, Big Daddy always told me in the past, he said there's been many mills went out over red oak. So he said, figuring the red oak out, and he said you can learn how to buy logs. He said you get your red oak figured out in our area. So that's what we're gonna do Monday. A lot of that's confidential, a lot of that I can't share with y'all, I'm sorry, but a lot of that's company information, so I'm gonna try to keep that in the company. But just to show you, you know, it's a precise thing. You need to do your studies and figure your stuff out, you know. Or I do. I'm green. You know, if you're an experienced sawmiller and you ain't got to do this, I get it. Because a lot of experienced sawmillers, they've been doing this for years, you know. And I'm an experienced logger, but I'm not necessarily an experienced sawmiller. So I gotta do my studies, I gotta get myself grounded. And me and Mommy's studying this real close, and we're getting we gotta get our margins there. This is how this works. We have to get our margins so we stay sustainable for the logging companies. Without us here, it does no good. The logging companies no good. On the flip side of that coin, we need to get the loggers the most money we can out of the logs, so they're enticed to log to come here. The landowners enticed to sell the timber, blah blah blah. And selling the timber is not just a capitalist. How do I say that? Managing timber is not just for capitalism. It's for the good of the environment. If you're managing your timber, then you've got healthy forests. And if we keep our forests healthy in America, then we're doing our part for the greenies and all that stuff. So it's a whole system that has to work. And my part of it that I'm putting in for all our people and the loggers and all that stuff, because I got to make sure that the men that work here and women that work here, that's families draw a paycheck from this company, they need to have a strong company that they can trust in to do their work. And I also got to have the loggers to where they trust this as a strong company to pay them well for their logs that they've worked hard to bring in. And then the landowners has got to see that this is all working. It's all working good. This whole system works good. So we're going to manage our timber because it can be fruitful. So you're using capitalism to get the job done of environmentalism. That makes sense? I don't know if I YouTubed it, but last year we took that, we had like a, I don't know what you call it, like a chicane or whatever in the belt that wiggle. We took that out, and I put the drive up there, and Carl and the guys helped me with it, with electric running up there and stuff, and we wired it up there and moved that, and that drive's doing nothing there. That blue drive you see, it needs took out. It's just sitting there wasting space. But we did that to that belt. The other belt, these belts, you don't ever think of them anymore on the outside of the mill. They just run so daggone reliable, you don't even think about them. Need to do a little bit of something with my with our I keep saying my, I'm sorry. It's the reason I say it's my is because I'm not being arrogant. It's because I feel like it's my problem. That's why I say that stuff. I not trying to be a narcissist, but the exhaust on that, we need to get it fixed. It needs to blow, drop down in that pit. I need to put a roof on that pit so the farmers is always getting dry dust. So when rain comes like this, it doesn't affect our dust, because the farmers use it for bedding, you know, and we outrun them when we're doing 150 a week. So anybody needs any sawdust and any local, come on and get it. We usually, but in 2 weeks it'll be behind again. So, but I need to get a roof in there someday, and then I need to put a little screen thing that I can separate it out, separate my big pieces out, and then maybe more of it can go to the horse people. Will buy more of it. The reason the horse people don't buy from us is because we get some big chunks in it, and it's not good for the horsies. Don't mind my messy dash here. It's been raining and raining and raining. Holy cow. They've been calling for like 10 or 12 inches or something in some places, like down through central Kentucky and coming up. And we're at the north end of it. We're still getting well over 6 to 10 inches in the past 4 days probably. It's April the what you call it, like 5th or 6th today, and daggone, all the ditches are full, leaves are washed out everywhere. Here you can see, coming off these hills, you can see the reflection of my dash and stuff. All the leaves blowed out on the roadside here. See all the ditches blowed out. All the leaves had moved. What a daggone pile of it. Look at the river bottoms down there. It has filled up a bunch since yesterday, and the rain's just now getting here. There's Dirt Perfect's camp down there. He's got his stuff raised up. But wow, she's a coming up. I mean, it's changed. There wasn't no water in there yesterday morning, just in a few places.
You know, this is mostly just standing water. It wasn't river water. Now the river waters are rolling in pretty good.